Go.
Afternoon, guys. So today, what we're going to be talking about is analgesics and their use in sport. What myself, Connor, and Lauren are going to be discussing is the ethical issues regarding whether analgesics are misused or used properly in sport. Here are a couple of examples of your over-the-counter and not over-the-counter analgesics. So what are they? Analgesics are painkillers. They inhibit the pain signals that travel from your affected area to your brain, and they come in a couple of different forms. You've got your basic ones, your paracetamol, you've got your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and you've got your opium and morphine derivatives. In sport and dance, these are particularly relevant because pain is inseparable from performance. Pain is just a byproduct of performing well and high outputs. And that's why we see that painkiller use is particularly prevalent in these sort of demographics. Pain, unfortunately, is important though. Pain acts as an autoregulator, and we need to consider whether the use of analgesics is proper because they can affect the decisions made by sport medicine professionals about when we return to play. So we want to decide today whether the use of analgesics is use or whether it's abuse.
So I'm going to talk about the degenerative changes and the risk of re-injury when using painkillers to allow early return to sport. The continued use of analgesics creates a detrimental degenerative impact on injured athletes and their return to play. Studies in the NFL have shown that players who sustained injuries in their AC joint in their shoulder and in their fingers were more likely to notice these degenerative changes throughout their playing career after having used analgesics. Players are nervous about the future of their playing career. The pressure to utilise these drugs is heightened as they feel as though they won't get a contract if they spend too much time on the sideline. There's a significantly increased likelihood of re-injury. Due to the lack of strength in scar tissue, a player who sustains an injury and returns earlier than suggested, and with the assistance of analgesics, dramatically increases their risk of re-injury. Analgesics slow down the regeneration process, and that's the way that they're going to re-injure themselves. There's a stigma surrounding the relationship between discomfort and sport. Players need to be fully fit and pain-free to be able to play at their best, but to contradict that, they also need to be able to deal with pain well in order to gain a competitive advantage. So this creates a notion that painkillers hold no consequences.
Now, dependency on painkillers from athletes in sport and dance, like mentioned before by Sean, is extremely common. And that's simply because they need to use them a lot more than the average person. Ex-England Rugby League captain Danny Sculthorpe said in an interview with BBC how during his career every day after every game, which he described as a car crash on his body, he would wake up, take like painkillers instantaneously to get some inflammatories into his body, and then later in the day restock his body again with drugs like naproxen and tramadol. He then said, like even later in his career, after like a major surgery, he was playing through excessive amounts of pain, but using extremely addictive drugs like fentanyl to get him through. He described the ability to become dependent on these painkillers as second nature. He described them as like lollies, like Skittles to him, simply because they're so common and they're so easy to access. Now, do they have any benefits? Minimal. Like at the least, you can extend your playing career and you grow the ability to play through pain. But overall, the detrimental effects on your body they extremely outweigh those aforementioned benefits. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to us today.
Thank you. Good, good.